Well, I guess I started the video. What is up, y'all? Philly Fly Show. Checking in here, kicking in at Right Way Production Studios and having a cup of coffee at about, what time is it? 7 o'clock at night. This is going to be a fun night of editing. All right, y'all. You know, just a quick toot of the old horn here. This is a whole month straight of hitting some high percentile picks here, guys. It started off as a 10 and 14, back-to-back 9 and 12 weeks, and then we got a 10 and 13 week. It's killing it for the Philly Fly Show this month. We're going to add another week to it. The Malzavar, Ilobov, and Lerone Murphy fight, a quick, just jot of my own notes. Recap the fight, rewatched it for a second time, almost did it for a third time just to write down these notes. But who in the bleep show called that a win for Malzavar? What? You want to say if that point deduction doesn't happen, he gets a win? I'm not going to argue it. I'm just going to say it's still a bad pick, but I'm not going to argue it like I'm arguing it right now. That outright pissed me off that they gave Malzavar Ilobov the win. He did not win 3 rounds to 2, especially with 4 rounds to 1, especially with a point getting taken away. It was a complete BS calling. Either A, you give it to Lerone Murphy for winning that fight. That's really the way I scored the card. But the second time I did watch it, my biasness kind of went off, and I just scored it as a tie because of that point deduction getting taken off. That is the way you score a fight, and whoever those judges are, just a big old F you to those guys. Literally, I get that one right, and it's 11 for 13, and it'd be way more of a fantastic week for me. But it's only one fight. It's a BS call. That's not what we're here for. We're here for UFC Fight Night Seattle. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. Now, y'all can keep dogging Izzy, but Izzy might be back on this fight, y'all. If you didn't watch his last fight with Imanov is a flippin' just a beast. And Izzy was putting it on him. You cannot go back and say that Izzy was not looking better than what he was before in his last fight. He looked like he was back. He fought a guy who countered him and countered his punch, and he technically KO'd him, but it was more of it's a TKO. It's really a TKO technically, but he got him out of there. He got the finish. Izzy will be back on Saturday. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to watch Israel Adesanya back in. It just sucks though, because if Izzy ends up losing on Saturday, just getting caught like things happen, at the end, it's literally nobody's gonna watch his fights. And I thought I had something on my camera there to check out. I'm gonna put this coffee down while I sit here and talk and get my pages back and forth here. Put that up there. Got the notes for this week. Did a way better on the notes this week than I did last week. But last week was like the first week I went back to having notes in my hand instead of having a phone in my hand. It's a lot easier to go over the previous fights and stuff when you got a phone in your hand, but it's not easier to count them and not have everything written down. So that's where the notes come in, and that's where the sheet of paper comes in. The picks, I'm going to show them up here. And then my fun notes. It's just a fun time, guys. A fun time to make some money. Let's make some cash. Let's jump into it. We got 13 legs here in this good old-fashioned UFC Fight Night. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. God, I cannot think of Joe Pyfer's nickname, but Israel, he's got a lot of nicknames. So start here. Match leg number 13 is a strawweight female bout. We get Alexa Thanier versus Bruna Brazil. Now, Bruna, she's been in the UFC a while, but she's just not caught on the track on winning and being a great fighter. She's got a chance here to take out one of these very high-level prospects here in Alexa. She's a negative 750 favorite, whereas Bruno Silva, Bruna Brazil is a plus 460 underdog. A little confusing there. Just quick run over here. Alexa's 5-0 in her last 5, 2-0 in the UFC, and she's got an 11 fight win streak. So I hope I wrote that down right. I'm looking at it, and I hope she's on a win streak. She's definitely 5-0. I did not write down her total record, which kind of bugs me, because I did it here for Navarro Sterling, but I didn't do it for her, so she must not be totally undefeated. But Bruna Silva, 2-3 in her last 5, 3-4 in the UFC, and are coming off a loss on a decision. She's not looking good for her. Odds makers have this on the right side, just a little crazy on mine at a negative 650. I think she's more of a negative 400, but it's neither here or there. It goes by how much money's coming in on her, and it must be a lot of money coming on Alexa there. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level. Alexa can get her hand raised after the fight. Jump to match link number 12 here. It's a bantamweight bout, male division bantamweight bout between Ricky Simone and Adrian Yanez. It's cool to see Adrian back, but he's got to have worked on something in his MMA game, whereas Ricky, he might be a small roller coaster in his UFC career, but he's still on the winning side and still looks like he's still got it. He's a more of a well-rounded fighter. He can mix the grappling up with the striking. Adrian Yanez has got some good grappling defense. I won't say he's great grappling offense, but he's got some good striking. Yanez is a plus 114 underdog, whereas Ricky Simone is the negative 146 favorite. Nearly a pick'em here. Ricky Simone in his last 5 is 2-3. He's 10-6 in the UFC, and he's coming off a decision loss. Name's escaping me that he just lost to, but it might come to me by the time I think of this. Adrian Yanez on 2-3 in his last 5. He's 6-3 in the UFC, so they got a similar winning side of the record, and he's coming off a decision loss, but that was like a year and a half ago, and it's good to see him back in there, but dude's got to have worked on something, because I know Ricky's coming. I know Ricky's game, and that's why I'm pretty sure Ricky's going to get the win here. 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. Ricky Simone gets his hand raised after this fight. We'll jump to the light heavyweight division. Match link number 11 is Navarro Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. Bruno Lopez a plus 400 underdog, whereas Navarro Sterling is a negative 620 favorite. The odds makers got this right. Navarro Sterling is an 8-0 fighter, 3-0 in the UFC, and on an 8-fight win streak. Yes, sign me up for that guy's MMA skill set. Pretty well-rounded, but I would say he's more of a good Class A striker. I'm not going to say elite striker yet, but he's a Class A striker. You know, Bruno Lopez, he's more of a grappler. He can strike. His striking is a little bit underrated, but the reason it's underrated is because he's got power. Navarro's got it all. He's got power. He's got good striking, whereas Bruno, he's less crisp, just got the power to back it up. So that's why he's a shot at winning, but I don't see him winning. Navarro Sterling gets a big win on Saturday. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level. He gets his hand raised after the fight. Jump to a female fight here at match link number 10. Flyweight bout between Casey O'Neill and Gabriela Fernandez. Gabriela is a negative 125 favorite, whereas Casey O'Neill is a negative 102. I can't say favorite. It's on the pick'em side, but the slight edge is going to go to Gabriela with the money probably coming in on her a little bit more. Casey O'Neill, she hasn't been in the octagon for nearly 2 years. It's been a year and a half layoff for her. She is 3-2 in her last 5, 5-2 in the UFC, and coming off a decision win about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And then Gabriela Fernandez is at 3-2 in her last 5, 3-2 in the UFC, so her last 5 fights have been in the UFC, and she's on a 3-fight win streak after taking 2 L's her first 2 fights in the UFC. So it's kind of hard for me to pick. I'm gonna pick Casey O'Neill. I just think that her skill set was a little bit better than Gabrielle when she was in the UFC 2 years ago, but with the small layoff, I don't know who's gonna win, so I'm only gonna go 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. But if it's the same Casey O'Neill that was there before, she should get her hand raised after the fight and be successful at it. Alright, matchup number 9 is a heavyweight bout between Marcin Tybura and Tyrell Fortune. Now, Tyrell's a negative... Wow, my handwriting is so awful here, guys. I'm totally... What in the bleep show? Negative 140 is what is written here, but it looks like negative 1200. The reason I know it's on negative 1200, Marcin Tybura is a plus 110 underdog. Tyrell negative 140 favorite. My handwriting sucks on this one. Sorry, guys. Quick notes here on them. Marcin Tybura is a 3-2 in his last 5. He's 14-9 in the UFC. It's kind of shocking that he's had his 9 losses in the UFC. I don't typically see that, but it's kind of cool to still see him in there at 40 years old. And he is coming off a KO loss to Ante Denasia. Now, Denasia now is on a loose streak himself coming off that loss, but Marcin Tybura got lucky on that one, just landed a good strike. Tyrell now on the other side, he is a 3-2. No, he's a 4-1 in his last 5. He's making his UFC debut. He last fought in a good promotion. He fought in PFL's 2024 season, so we'll see if these fighters coming from PFL or Bellator can make a shot at this, but they typically have a struggle here. I was going to go Marcin Tybura, but I just think the 40 years old and how he looked in his last fight, I just think his career is over and it's done. I think Tyrell will get the win, but he is a 35-year-old himself, and we know how 35-year-olds coming into the UFC typically work. It's not a very good turnout. So 1 out of 5 on the confidence level that Tyrell can get his hand raised. Now, this is where I got things super screwed up on my sheet, and I had to flip-flop it. I flip-flopped the next 2 fights, so I got to say it the right way. So match link number 8 here is Chase Hooper. It's a lightweight bout between Chase Hooper and Lance Gibbons. Gibbons is a plus 210 underdog, whereas Chase Hooper is a negative 280 favorite. Chase was on a crazy win streak. He's super young. The striking looks like it's finally there. His grappling is obviously at an elite level, but that striking we wanted to get on a good, crisp, and elite level. He's a grade A striker. He won't become elite because of what happened to him in his last fight. Lance Gibbons, though, good guy coming up through different promotions here to make it in the UFC. And, he fought Bobby King Green his last fight and took an L in the decision, but it's all right here. We're still going to root for him. Chase Hooper, 4-1 in his last 5, 8-4 in the UFC, and coming off a KO loss to Anthony Hernandez. That was no slouch fighter to lose to. It's okay to lose to good fighters. Nothing wrong with a loss. It just makes you better. And then Lance Gibbons on the other side. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He's 0-1 in the UFC because he fought Bobby King Green for his first fight in the UFC, which is a tough fight. But no, that's not. Sorry. Totally got a different fighter mixed up in my head that's on this card too. That's fun, a different promotion. But it's good to see Lance back in there. It's hard for me to pick this one because I think Lance is really good and well-rounded, but Chase looks like he's on a different level for fighters. But how does Chase face the adversity after starting his career with loss, win, going 3-3, and then just going on a tear there? It's hard. I hope his striking stays at the grade A level that it's been at. His last fight didn't look so great, but it still is good. It's just Lance is going to be. It's a tough fight. The odds makers have this wrong. This should be more of a pick 'em for me because they're both good prospects. But I'm going to pick Chase Hooper to get the win. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level. He gets his hand raised. I'm second guessing myself live on the show, and it's never good when I do that. So we'll jump to match link number 7 here. We'll stay in the lightweight division. In fact, it's 3 straight lightweight division fights. So this is the second of 3. Match link number 7, featured prelim bout of the evening. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tofea Mosaev. Now, Tofea is a plus 230 underdog, whereas Ignacio is a negative 310 favorite. I think the odds makers literally jump on Ignacio's crazy spinning heel kick on the inside of a guard there. Still one of the most craziest knockouts I've ever seen, but he has come up short in a couple of his fights coming up since then. He's 3-2 in his last 5, 6-3 in the UFC, and coming off a decision loss to Fiziev. It's not a bad loss, but Fiziev, he's on a down stretch, so it's not looking like a great loss right now, but when Fiziev gets back in there and gets a good win behind him, it won't look so bad. And then you get Tofea 3-2 in his last 5. He's 0-1 in his UFC debut, and he is the guy who fought in Bellator and Rising. So I will give him credit for fighting in Rising. I'm not going to give him credit for fighting in Bellator. Bellator was just a slouchy MMA promotion, just like PFL, and that's why those two are intertwined together. But it's cool to see him get a shot in the UFC and see if he can make it, but he's got a tough matchup against Ignacio Bahamondes, and Bahamondes is winning that fight on Saturday. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level, he can get his hand raised. Jump to the main card here. Again, a lightweight bout. Like I said, the last of 3 on this part. Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. Now, Terrence McKinney's a negative 180 favorite, whereas Kyle Nelson's a plus 138 underdog. I like both of these fighters, but something about Terrence is roller coaster of his career so far. Cannot make me jump on him getting a win here. Terrence, 3-2 in his last 5, 7-5 in the UFC, and he's coming off a submission loss against a guy I thought he was going to win against. Then you get Kyle Nelson, who's 4-1 in his last 5. He's 5-5-1 in the UFC. It's crazy the UFC didn't cut him right away after losing his 3 fights in a row or 4 fights in a row, and then just coming on this freaking tear here. But he's coming off a decision win. Kyle is very well rounded, but he's a better striker than he has a grappler, even on grappling defense. Terrence McKinney's got crazy power, but Terrence has a bad gas tank, and he typically, if he's gonna fight one, he's well rounded, but he picks one side for the whole fight. And what I mean by that, sometimes once in a while he'll start in the first round, start striking, and then he gets tired, so he starts grappling, because grappling is kind of his first love, his first known to come there. But in his last couple fights, it seems like he'll either strike with the guy and try to, put him out, or he's going straight for the grappling and trying to submit him. So I don't know what Terrence McKinney is going to show up against Kyle Nelson. Because like I said, Kyle Nelson's well-rounded, but a good striker. So if it stands and fights, Kyle Nelson's got the advantage. If it gets to the ground, I'm going to give it to Terrence. But I'm going to think it's going to stay on the feet, and Kyle Nelson's going to get a win with that plus 138 cash to the bank. But not super confident on it. 1 out of 5 on the confidence level that Heat can get his hand raised. Matchup number 5 is a middleweight bout between Mansur Abdul Malik versus Yusuri Belgore. Now, Yusuri is a negative 102 favorite, whereas Mansur is a negative. It's a pick 'em. They're both on the favorite side. He's a negative 125 technical favorite. I call this a pick 'em still because the odds are so close. Mansur, now looking at him, he's 4-0-1 in his last 5. He's got that weird draw against Cody Brundage because of, I want to say, low kicks or eye pokes. He got a point taken away, so it ended up a draw. It's kind of weird. In the UFC, he's 3-0-1, so he hasn't lost, but he has that weird draw, like I said. And he's coming off a submission win. Now, Yusuri, he is 4-1 in his last 5. 1-0 in the UFC and on a 4-fight win streak. He's a good fighter. He's very, very well-rounded, but Mansur's got this crazy physique to him that you're just not going to get around. I mean, he lands on you, you're going to sleep, and if you grapple with him, even though he's not an elite, wrestling-type grappler, he's a good defensive grappler, he's strong, so it's going to be hard for you to put him down and hold him down. I think Mansur gets a big win on Saturday, putting one of these prospects on hold. Now, Yusuri goes 0-2 in the UFC. That's going to be a bad start for his career, but hey, it could go either way if you really think about it. But Mansur, I just like his game. Like him a little bit better than Yusuri, but I'm only 1 out of 5 on the confidence level that he can get his hand raised. Matchup number 4 is a featherweight bout between Julian Erosa and Leon Douglas. Now, Douglas is coming off his Dana White Contender Series 17-second crazy KO. He's a negative 340 favorite. Julian Erosa, being the UFC vet he is a plus 250 underdog. Look, man, the odds makers really, really like this guy in Douglas. Putting him up against a guy in Julian Erosa and how his career is played out, that's a tough matchup to go against your first guy in the UFC. Erosa has a crazy high output for striking, grappling. He doesn't slow down. All 3 rounds are just crazy. Has a great gas tank to back it up too. He is 3-2 in his last 5. He's 8-7 in his UFC career. That's why I call it a roller coaster career. And he's coming off a decision loss against Makesta Costa. I think that's how you say his first name. He's got a main event coming up here. If you haven't checked out Costa, he's going to be an elite top 5 fighter in the featherweight division. But we're talking about Julian Erosa here now. Leon, like I said, he's 5-0 in his last 5. 1-0 coming off his Dana White Contender Series and making his UFC debut. I just think that's a tough matchup because Julian's going to put it on him. He's either going to grapple, high striking. It really doesn't matter. The problem for Julian Erosa is he's kind of got that glass jaw syndrome. So if Douglas does land and early, it's going to be a bad night for Erosa. But I think Erosa wins him out in a decision win on points. I'll take that 250, cash it to the bank. But again, 1 out of 5 on that confidence level that Julian Erosa can get his hand raised. All right, welterweight bout here. I'm pretty sure this is Michael Chiesa's last ever fight. Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. Look, man, Nico needs to be done too, man. He's got one of the coolest knockouts you'll ever see. I've never seen a dude who was getting ground and pounded on just start throwing hammer fists from the bottom and knock dude out on top of him. Craziest knockout. You still got to go see it. But when you're fighting a guy like Michael Chiesa who's just going to grapple you and take you down and submit you, and you're known to be submitted, and you're not very good at grappling defense, and really all you are is a brawler and Nico Price, yeah, you can kind of see why the odds makers have it this way. Michael Chiesa is a negative 800 favorite. Price plus 480 underdog. Mike is 3-2 in his last 5, 14-7 in the UFC, and on a 3-fight win streak. But like I said, I think he's calling it a career after this fight. And then Nico Price, 1-4 in his last 5, 8-10 in the UFC. Has 10 losses in the UFC, gonna about to be number 11, and he's on a 3-fight lose streak, and his career is on the downfall. He'll probably fight someone in some other promotion, but this is his last UFC fight. Even if he gets a win, I think it's his last UFC fight. Michael Chiesa not losing that fight. Pick him by submission if you want to get better odds on it, or take that money line to the bank like I am. 3 out of 5 on the 3 out of 5 on a confidence level that Michael Chiesa, can get his hand raised. Co-main event of the evening is a flyweight female bout. It is a badass fight on paper, but here's my downfall of the whole fight. We don't know what Macy Barber's going to show up because of her health concerns. And Alexa Grasso just has not looked the same since her 3 fights with Valentina. Since winning the belt, she has not been the same fighter. I know people are going to say she was kind of overrated, got lucky, and got a lucky rear naked choke on the champ. That's not how I look at it, man. I think she's got the hands to do it. I think she's got the grappling to do it. She's got to put it together. I think it's a psychology thing with her. Alexa Grasso is a plus 146 underdog. She is the number 3 ranked flyweight in the world. And Macy Barber is the number 5 ranked flyweight, and she's a negative 188 favorite. Reason they're probably giving it to Macy is because I think Macy's just going to body her up and be way more physical than her, and I do not see that happening because if Alexa gets her boxing on point, she's going to hurt Macy because Macy does not have great head movement defense. She kind of stands in there and will take one to give one, and Alexa's not that type of fighter at all, but we haven't seen the same Alexa Grasso, like I said, so I do not know who's going to show up. I'm 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. Alexa can get her hand raised, but her quick little review: she's 2-1 in her last 5. She's 8-5-1 in the UFC, and on a 2-fight lose streak for Alexa Grasso. Macy, she is 5-0 in her last 5, 10-2 in the UFC, and on a 7-fight win streak. But the problem is health concerns for her. We don't know what type of Macy Barber is going to actually show up. I'm picking Alexa Grasso to get the win, 1 out of 5 on the confidence, but I would not bet that fight. I'd stay away from that fight unless you're willing to risk it on the plus money side. And then we get to the main event of the evening, boys and girls, cats and dogs. Let's get this going. I'm surprised my dog hasn't got up. He's literally laying over here this whole time. And he hasn't gotten up once. It's kind of crazy. But Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer, middleweight bout. Israel Adesanya, negative 136 favorite. Joe Pyfer, plus 106 underdog. The odds makers got this right. I've already seen it on other sites kind of jump up here. To give Izzy, I've seen negative 160 on some sites. I've seen it all the way down to negative 120 on sites. It really depends on what money's coming in and who they think's going to win. Israel might be 1-4 in his last 5, but he did not look like that in his last fight. Even though he lost, he looked really, really good. He's 13-5 in the UFC and on a 3-fight lose streak. It's unfortunate. Joe Pyfer, 4-1 in his last 5, 6-1 in the UFC and on a 3-fight win streak. But look, man, Joe thinks he can stand and fight with every person. He's got power, but he's not got crisp enough striking or a great gas tank whatsoever. Israel has got a great gas tank. He's got great striking. He is beefed the fuck up. But Israel cannot get caught. Israel's got to fight a pure defensive fight too while he's fighting offensive. I think that I wouldn't say glass jaw syndrome, but he gets put out on Saturday. It's glass jaw syndrome, and his career is pretty much going to be over. I don't think an L on Saturday is good for him. I think that ends his career. Joe Pyfer, though, like I said, he's going to stand there and try to stand with him, and that's not the person you want to stand a distance with is Israel Adesanya, even if he's having an off night. He's crazy, crazy good striking, and with him beefing up and the way he looked against Imanov last time, I just think he puts it together. I think it's going to be a bad, bad night for Joe Pyfer. All right, y'all. Philly Fly Show is going to check out here. Kind of been a long podcast here, especially now with this whole textile and editing thing. It's a little longer, and especially with these notes, it's gotten a little longer. But shout out to Right Way Production Studios for always making this happen, and we are going to see y'all next week, and we're going to kill it again this week for some high percentile picks. Peace out, y'all.